Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you are watching this. Welcome to Walking in My Shoes. So today we have a special treat. I have an interview with an expat. Happens to be a friend of mine. This is Mike here.
Hello.
Hello. And so real quick here, I met Mike actually through YouTube. I myself was looking at becoming an expat, actually just looking to tour Thailand.
You were looking for your first vacation
kind
of thing over here, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I was looking for my first vacation in Southeast Asia, and I found him on YouTube. What's great about that is after viewing his videos for about a year or so, I've been making the transition over here to Thailand, and Mike has been a catalyst in my life. Thus, this interview might be a catalyst in your life. So we're going to go over some questions. Mike has agreed to an interview with us. So real quick, Mike also has a YouTube channel. Again, I mentioned that earlier, called Live My Ass Off. And Mike, if you want to plug yourself real quick, that would be awesome.
Yeah, sure. And honored to be here. Thank you, Robbie. So it's Live My Ass Off. The short answer is the easiest thing to do is just youtube.com/Live My Ass Off, or send me a message at livemyassoff@gmail.com.
Great. Thank you, Mike. So we're just going to ask him some quick questions, quick meaning. This isn't going to be a real long video, but Mike has also agreed to do a live stream with us, and which would be a lot more detail. Could be an hour, could be a couple hours.
And more interactive, potentially. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, so we will put that out there shortly to where you guys can interact with us, ask personal questions, ask expat questions, whatnot. These questions right now are going to be just a basic set of questions that you guys have asked me, and then questions I've asked Mike. I'm going to ask him right now, and we're going to see how that goes. So, Mike, just start off. I'm just going to ask you, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who you are, what you do, that kind of thing.
All right. So, I grew up doing life and, went to high school and did all that nonsense. And, but was always into radio and broadcasting and stuff. That brought me to Southern California, worked there for years. And then finally in about 2012, went through sort of the process of, I don't want to own a home anymore. I want to just be able to travel. So I'm going to rent a small place. I'm going to have a backpack, and I'm just going to go. And I wanted to live near San Diego Airport so I could go. And then I just started asking buddies. Now I had a buddy, Eddie, and he had been telling me for years via verbally as well as photos and everything, you got to come to Thailand. You got to come to Thailand. And my immediate response was, dude, it's a 25-hour flight.
Yes.
There's no way. My longest flight at that time, I think a lot of people in the U.S., was basically one coast to one coast. I could max out at 6 hours. Anything over that just seemed like an eternity. I'd never be able to do that. And so basically the story of, the summary of me over here is that one day I just decided to finally do it. And there weren't really any YouTube channels or anything back then. I just said, okay, well, I guess, I know how to book a plane ticket. I guess I'll go for it. And so that was December of 2012. And so this December will be 10 years that I've been coming and going.
Great. So that was going to be one of my questions. How long have you considered yourself an expat, or how long have you been traveling to Thailand?
So I probably considered myself an expat since November of 2019, because that's when I, did the infamous pack everything up, sell everything, and move over here. So November 2019, I consider myself an expat since then. But yeah, this December it'll be 10 years. Traveling in and out of Southeast Asia, because while I did come to Thailand and then came back to Thailand, I then also had some other friends, nudging me, hey, dude, you should really check out the Philippines. And then, of course, it's really easy to look at a map and say, all right, well, yeah, I've been to the Philippines. Well, now I want to go to Vietnam because that's in the middle.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. That's actually where I'm headed. I'm hoping to head to Vietnam pretty soon.
It's awesome.
I'm actually going to Philippines here in about a week or so. Again, not to be an expat over there. So I chose Thailand, and again, I'm not official an expat yet. So I want to ask you, Mike, why Thailand? You've toured other countries, as you mentioned. So give us a quick why Thailand.
So the first thing I will say, and not just to plug it, but I've been asked this number of times, and I asked myself it as well. So therefore, I actually have a playlist on my channel called Why Thailand, and it goes through about 7 or 8 videos over the course of probably 7 or 8 months about why Thailand, and the number of reasons. The absolute shortest answer is because I'm happiest here. And the way that I sort of label that sometimes is that I just fit here, and there's a number of reasons, not the least of which is I love hot. I love humid. I also love being somewhere where things are reasonably priced. I don't like being, like I say, distracted by the cost of things, And so that, and then the people are wonderful. I just really fit in this part of the world. I like the way that they respond. I like the way that they react. I like the way that they interact.
So is this your official address? So
Yeah.
if I had to send you a postcard somewhere,
Which you should regularly.
I will send you a
Thank
postcard
you. From Phuket.
From Phuket. Where would I send it? Would it be Thailand or would it be your native American home?
Yeah, so to the whole expat thing, right? So I absolutely still have a U.S. home. It's our family home. It's in Massachusetts. I use that as my U.S. address. I find it very convenient in some areas to have a U.S. address. But if you're over in this part of the world, then you would send me a postcard to my address, Sukhumvit 101.
There you go.
Just down the street from where we are right now. And I've used that address in February, it'll be 3 years.
Okay, cool. So make sure you guys click like and subscribe on Mike's channel to really get the full details of the why, because that really is an important aspect of this video, is really learning the why, because that really helped me, and his videos will go into full detail about that. Again, we're going to do the short versions, the short answers. So you're a Native American, United States. So just real quick before we get into more of the Thailand, what did you do in America, and and where were you living before you came here?
So I grew up in the Boston area, and then at 20, I moved to San Diego. I had a brief stint in my mid-20s in St. Louis for about 18 months, and during all of that time, I was basically in radio. I was on the air, but I was also on the technical side of radio, the engineering side, and then that sort of dwindled about the end of the century, basically. The 2000s came in, and way too much competition was in the face of radio. So I changed careers, but kept with the technology and did IT. So for 15 years prior to moving my body to Thailand permanently, I worked at the University of San Diego, and I was in charge of the IT systems. So I had a team of guys and gals, and we supported the whole infrastructure of the of technology, basically, for the university. But at the same time, I was also actually traveling internationally as part of. We have jobs at home, right? But then we're also on boards, and we do volunteer work and that sort of thing. So I was the president of the board of this global user group for technology. So basically,
right. So are you currently employed now?
No. And so one of the things I did out of sheer frustration, and we can get as much detail as you want of that, but it was just like this work thing, that the way that I was doing it, it was way too much work. You know what I mean? It wasn't mentally enjoyable.
You mean working back in the States and then living here?
And I had a real job, right? I had the infamous 9 to 5 at a university, and the nice thing about a university is you get a ton of vacation, ton of benefits.
Yes.
And so that afforded me the ability to travel for months, actually, in between, and then sort of working remotely because it's IT, and then you can do that remotely, on a number of scales. But no, I don't have a paying job right now, and so it was like, I'm going to live off my savings effectively.
So you've been here about 10 years. So the first part of those 10 years, you did try the whole working remotely to make money, and then you made the decision saying, "Hey, this is just too much. I'm not living my best life. I'm going to make a change." And so you're essentially retired, even though you do some side gigs.
Yeah, I know. I can't. Retired's an interesting thing, right? For guys our age.
Yeah, that's
it's like, I'm going to totally retire, and then about 2 weeks later, you're like, I think I got this new project. Yeah. I got this new idea.
So, Mike, real quick, you just mentioned a golden thing here. You said age. Just real quick, tell everybody your age.
54.
54.
I just turned 54. Yeah.
And so to retire in Thailand, there's a retirement visa.
Correct.
Now, I know you don't have that, but can you talk a little bit? What is a retirement visa?
Mm-hmm.
We won't go into tons of details, just enough to say what is a retirement visa and who can get one.
A retirement visa is for someone over 50 that has approximately basically $30,000 in the bank that you can prove to Thailand that you have the means and the ability to live off of your own money and not leech off of their social system. And it affords you the ability to basically come to Thailand and stay for 1 year continuously without having to leave. And in that 1 year, you have a number of options, not the least of which is you will get a multiple entry visa. And again, if you guys have any specific questions about your scenario and recommendations about the retirement visa and, quite frankly, other visas as well, just shoot me an email, livemyassoff@gmail.com. If for no other reason than there is so much wrong data out there.
Yes.
It drives me bonkers.
Or leave it in the comments, guys. Make sure you leave it in the comments because I will respond back. Mike actually will respond back to answer the question. So there are retirement visas. There's different type of visas. And again, that's a whole nother video.
But it basically allows you to live over here for a year without having to do anything.
So, and then the other one, if you're not 50, there is a Thai Elite visa. So definitely you can go check that out. Just type Thai Elite visa in Google search and it'll pop right up. And that pretty much is you're buying a visa, essentially. Do you know anything about the Thai Elite visa?
Yes, I absolutely. I literally was like inches away from doing it because during COVID, it was the only way you could come into Thailand. And so it was the only way that I could get Gracie here. So I almost did it, and they tried to hard sell me. Of course, it's like, well, it's December, Mike, and in January the price of it goes up to 800,000 baht or something, and normally it was 600,000. This is for the 5-year version. And if you're under 50 and you want to stay here like super long term, that's an option. Be real clear though, you can't work on it, and that's illegal to do. And their goal is for you to basically be affluent, however you define that. It's a relative term, and come over here and just kick back. Yeah. And the elite program is not just a visa. Like you get,
other benefits,
limo rides, golf tournament, all that.
So it's really a pretty cool visa. Be sure if that's something if you're under 50, check it out. If you're 50 and above, honestly, I've learned just from my own experience and talking with people like Mike, that the options of an O visa, and again, there's different types. I'm mentioning O visa, but there's tons of different types of visas. When you're 50, the process isn't as painful as it seems, and there's tons of agencies. Again, leave a comment, and we'll talk about that, or you can shoot Mike an email. Again, Mike, what's the email address?
livemyassoff@gmail.com. That's the easiest one. It all ends up in my inbox.
Great. So, Mike, I'm going to ask you a few more questions here. Where in Thailand do you live?
So the area is called Bang Na. A lot of people will say that I live in Bangkok, which I do. I live in there's the city of Bangkok, and then there's the province of Bangkok. I live in the province of Bangkok, and I live in sort of the community of Bang Na, which is, if you know Sukhumvit, then this is Sukhumvit 101. The BTS stop, a lot of people will describe where they live by the BTS stop. I live near Punawiti. Punawiti. And it's basically, a lot of people are going to know Asok and Nana and all that, okay? And then if you come south on the BTS, then a lot of times people, the furthest they would ever go would be on Nut. And that's still sort of a little bit of the city center once you get past Prakanong. But I'm basically about, 4 stops away from, city center. So essentially,
a lot of you guys who are tuning in are familiar with Nana. It's an additional 10 minutes on the BTS, maybe 20 minutes to get to where we're actually at right now. So we're actually at we're at True
Digital Park.
True Digital Park, which is really close to Mike's home on Punawiti.
Yeah.
So if someone says it, I know I butcher the words. If you guys have seen my other videos, I do butcher the words quite a bit. Mike has some experience here. 10 years as an expat, you're pretty firm that this is where you're at and you're most happiest at.
Yeah.
Because that's important, correct?
Yeah. Again, the slogan, you're like, live your best life, right?
Yes.
And for me, it's like, look, live the dream. If you're not, you're doing it wrong. And I totally trust me, I've done it wrong. So I know what that feels like. It's not just some fantasy. It's actually something that I work towards. But to your expat thing, I would say that really... I was a traveler until about November of 2019. Now, again, some of my travels involved several months getting an Airbnb, actually living in the community. But even still, I don't know. I understand why people say they are an expat because they don't live in their home country necessarily. Mm-hmm. But my parents, they moved to, the United States with green cards from Canada and lived and worked there and paid taxes, like a lot of them. And, they didn't become U.S. citizens for like 30 years.
Wow.
And now they are, and now they've been citizens for like 30 years. But the expatriation, in other words, I think a lot of people confuse it with me saying, hey, home country, go jump in a lake. I'm done with you guys. I'm not going to be part of you. I love my U.S. passport.
Absolutely. U.S. passport is awesome.
And I have a Canadian passport, too, which is really helpful because, when there was COVID, dude, people were like, hey, so if you have a U.S. passport, you can't travel to our country. I mean, it was this new thing. No one knew how to react.
So you're
to
dual. I didn't know you had 2 passports. So that's kind of cool.
It is,
and I don't know how much it really helps. Of course, Mike can go into more details about that. So, Mike, you've been doing this for about 10 years. What I want to know is a little bit about your first trip here to Thailand, and then that process of you mentally making, wow, I'm going to live my best life here. In your case, I'm living the dream.
Yeah.
And just, again, people, when I would watch Mike's videos, one of the things that attracted me to his channel is just that, living the dream. If you're not living, which I think is an amazing, and I've taken a hold of that, and I'm all about, hey, live your best life. If you're not living your best life, you're not living. So, Mike, if you can answer that question about your first trip to the decision, wow, I'm going to live here in Thailand.
So the first trip was, eventually I finally got up enough, I don't know what, courage, money, whatever, to say, okay, I'm going to get on the plane. So I get on the plane, and I've flown before. And obviously this was 4 times the amount of time. But it went by pretty fast. I flew over here on Thai Airways. If anyone knows of the companies that fly over here are infinitely more competent than the ones in the U.S. Let me just say that. The carriers over here are much better. Thai Airways is great customer service. I recommend that. I land here, and I didn't know what to expect. So I was like, okay, I had a little bit of the preconceived notions.
How long was your trip booked for?
3 weeks.
Okay, only 3 weeks, guys.
I was going to do 3 weeks here, and then I was going to fly back and hop and stay in Maui for a week, which I did.
Okay.
And so it was about a month that I was going to leave.
So your first trip to Thailand is only 3 weeks.
Yeah, because, I didn't, at that point, basically, I'd been the standard vacationer in the United States. 2 weeks of paid vacation a year, you know what I mean?
Was it during Thailand peak season?
Yeah, full on. In other words, I think my flight landed on December 15th. And, it was the most expensive time, for sure, to fly here as well as be here.
Definitely. So when you booked that trip, you came as a single man.
Yeah.
What was the reason why, hey, I'm going to book this trip to Thailand for 3 weeks? What was the trigger?
What was the reason for the length of it, or why did I even come to here?
Why did you even come to Thailand?
Basically, because I wanted to travel a lot, and a buddy of mine had been encouraging me to, effectively get off of North America. You know what I mean? And so that was the main reason. He showed me some physical, printed pictures, right? None of this digital stuff of him having a good time. Of hey, look, cute girls here, right?
Absolutely.
But then he also shared that, look, dude, there's not elephants driving down. You don't commute on one of those.
Yeah.
There's actual cars there. They own gasoline. There's electricity for running water. And so I was like, okay. And then, he showed me pictures of the beach. Let's face it, dude, if you type in Thailand in Google, I would submit to you the first 10 pictures are going to be of gorgeous beaches.
Absolutely.
And
by the way, those pictures are exactly the way it looks. They don't have to be doctored.
So that's what's funny, right?
Yeah.
It's postcard.
It's everywhere
you're standing there and you're going, I don't have a $40,000 camera. I can't reproduce this.
You can't.
It's just it's spectacular.
So whatever you see on Google or whatnot, it is exactly what you see here. So okay, so we book our first trip. You come here.
Yep.
I'm sure you're shell shocked. From that time to you making your decision, what was that like? So we're talking a big decision. You're 10 years ago. So let's see if your memory comes back here.
Well, okay. So
let's talk about that.
Again, I didn't know what to expect, right? So I booked myself a room at the JW because it's not expensive here like it is in San Diego or Los Angeles. It's like $100 a night, which is free for JW in the U.S. So I land, I take the taxi to the hotel. It's 2 or 3 in the morning. Now, it's December 15th, right? So it's Christmas time. So I walk into this JW Marriott, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm in Thailand. Now, it's hot and humid, so that's a big difference.
And this is in Bangkok.
This is in Bangkok.
Okay.
And I look up, and there's this 40-foot Christmas tree. And I'm going, this doesn't look very Asian. This is kind of weird. They greet me in English. But then I'm like, okay, well, it's a JW, right? So they're going to be international. So whatever. And I'm awake. It's the middle of the night. I slept on the plane. I text a buddy, dude, what do I do? He's like, look, walk outside, walk down the street to Soy 4, and that is basically the soy that you walk to where Nana Plaza's on the left.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Gotcha. Perfect expat community for single guys.
Well, it's 2:30, 3 in the morning, right? And I'm dude, this place is dead. What are you talking about? This is lame. I walk out there. All the bars are now closing, and the street is flooded with people, basically with girls. And so to answer your question, I was here about 45 minutes, and I'm not joking, before I decided, oh, dude, I am retiring here.
I'm retiring here in Bangkok.
Right. And then I went to Pattaya, and that just kind of leveled it up. Say, oh yeah,
you know what? We are leading that way about Pattaya. So a lot of guys, their first trip, like my own, I came the first time here in November during peak season. I booked a trip for a few weeks with a bunch of buddies of mine. I ended up staying almost 2.5 months, basically from November into January, right before COVID hit, and I landed in Bangkok, but I went straight to Pattaya. I did not tour Bangkok at all. Yeah. I had no idea, but I went to Pattaya, and like Mike, in the middle of the night, I arrive in Pattaya at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
You're energized. And like Mike, again, I pretty much came for the same reason. I had a buddy of mine, actually Tony Spencer, who probably be watching this video right now. I just called him out first and last name. He actually encouraged me to go, saying, hey, I'm going to show up. And Tony, by the way, you didn't show up, and here I am the third time. So make sure you show up. I'd love to.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he hasn't come back.
So he convinced you, but he didn't come. Tony, you got to get over here, buddy.
He convinced me. He'll come back, I'm sure. I know the whole COVID thing really slowed it down.
Yeah, sure.
Anyways, when I came over to Pattaya. Like Mike said, had an epic time, and within the first hour or two, I'm like, man.
No, it was amazing.
If this is what it's like, I think I want to stay here. I mean, not that I want to stay here right then and there, but I was with a group of guys, and of the group of guys, myself and another one, Brian, who might be watching this right now, have made a conscious decision to move over here and retire here and for live my best life.
Totally.
And then yours, living the dream, which I love.
For sure.
So, I don't know if you really answered that question or if I got it answered, which was the distance between, but you did say 45 minutes.
Well, I can tell you it was less than a day, and then I did sleep. I woke up the next morning, and of course, my schedule's off, right? So I think it was like 6:37 in the morning, and you know this, but a lot of people don't. But basically, in many major cities, there's a main thoroughfare, right? And so here it's Sukhumvit, and then there's these little walkways where you can cross the street, so you don't have to walk on. Okay, so they have the stairs that go up. So I walk up on top of one of those, and I'm now over Sukhumvit. It's like 6:37 in the morning, and the city is starting to come alive.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around, and I'm like, okay, and I'm going through all of these preconceived notions or data or BS, quite frankly, that I heard from a lot of people in the U.S., not the least of which, it's dirty, it's unsafe, which is totally 180
third
degrees.
World country, which we'll be getting into in a moment.
Third world. I mean, and I'm sitting there, and there's people on the street with little orange vests sweeping the street on a weekday.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, first of all, I can see the pride that these people have in their country and their city. And it's a job. I get it, okay? Not every trash collector in the United States has pride in the United States. But they're sitting there and they're cleaning this stuff. And I'm watching the city come alive and everything. And then it was just like, because, look, so the first night I'm here, 30 minutes. Geez, Mike, why did you want to move the time? Well, because there were 27 girls around me, and they were all maybe this high and weighed 40 kilos.
A single guy's paradise.
And they're paying attention to me, right? Yeah. And I didn't have to do anything. I didn't need to take them to dinner, and have some nonsense conversation. It's like, okay, I get it. So, so that was part of it. But then, again, less than 12 hours later, I'm watching a metropolis, come to life.
Come to life. So, you guys, I got to tell you, so when I first came here, and again, I didn't tour Bangkok at all. I went straight to Pattaya and then Phuket, and then I went home.
Having been in Bangkok now for a while, would you? Because I do this. Would you recommend to guys that they come, land in Bangkok, check Bangkok out, and then go elsewhere, or go directly to Pattaya?
Well, that's where I was going to go. So on my first trip, I didn't tour it. On my second trip, I went ahead and stayed a week in Bangkok first, which ended up being 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
And I got to tell you, I'm not a big city guy.
No,
I mean, where I live, or my home in Pismo Beach, California, is actually really small, and I love it there. It's beautiful. But coming to Bangkok and this city, Mike said, coming alive. I mean, you guys can check out my previous videos. My walk at night is just amazing. Just how clean and how neat this city is.
Oh, and safe.
And you guys, Bangkok, I was shocked. You can watch all the movies in the world about Bangkok's Got You, or the whatever that other, not Wedding Crashers, but that one, where they're getting ready to get married, and it's Hangover 2.
Hangover Part 2. Yeah.
Which is, by the way, a lot of fun. I mean, I ended up touring that street called Soy Cowboy.
Soy Cowboy, yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. And you guys, this place is not third world, which we're going to get into. Maybe that's another video because there's
a lot of other
topic.
videos actually we could talk about because it's neat having the contrast. I mean, you're a new guy. Basically.
I'm a new guy. I'm a newbie to it. Now this is my third trip or my third trip.
Third trip. Yeah.
Now since being here, I've gone a couple other places in between. Like I've gone to the Philippines, and I am getting ready to fly out back to Phuket. So of the 3 destinations I highly recommend, if you're new or if you've come here before, definitely tour Bangkok at least a week. You give it a week because I do believe going around Nana Plaza. And you guys, you know what? Let me set the record straight. I personally believe this place is set up for single guys who want to become expats and live their best life. I mean, you can come as a married
country
person.
or Nana?
Definitely Nana.
The country's not really designed for that.
Yeah, the country's not designed for that, but for myself as somebody who has been married and divorced, I don't know if I would bring a spouse over here. I mean, I'm not pre-planned. So basically this interview is about coming over, maybe making a big change in your life. So if you are married and you're happy and all that, that's great. That's fantastic. But I got to tell you, I am reaching out to the people who actually want to make that change. Yeah. And Mike is one of those people who have. I'm one of those people. And most of my viewers, frankly, here are, fall in that category.
Single guys.
Single guys who are, 30s and up. And this place is... what we're talking about is pretty much that age demographic. And again, it's not to say that there aren't things that couples can do because Phuket is absolutely gorgeous, lots of stuff. Yeah. And
people go there to get married, i.e. the Hangover.
Exactly, i.e. the Hangover. And this place isn't only about, hey, let's hook up with girls and meet chicks.
No, and that's another thing I'd love to dispel is that, look at, dude, you get not 2 soys. You get 20 soys away from Nana Plaza, and it's like, I mean, yeah.
Soys are streets, guys.
Sorry, thank you. Avenue. The red light district is not all Thailand. Yes, there's Pattaya, which is basically a giant red light district. For the first about, basically past Third Road, then it's different. But for the beach area, it's a giant red light district. And but yeah, I mean, look at around Nana Plaza, but I mean down here where I live, I mean, it's even difficult to find a breakfast place.
This place is amazing. So we're at True Digital Park. So if any of you guys been to some of the upscale California neighborhoods or New York neighborhoods or San Jose, actually, this is to me like a little San Jose,
for sure.
High tech,
big,
and we're actually in a very large co-working space. That's letting us film and record this video for you guys. So we're going to get back into some questions. Again, you guys definitely subscribe on Mike's channel. Be sure to like and subscribe on my channel to learn more about Thailand. Some of the things I learned came from Mike's channel and again personally connected with me. So when I was able to meet up with Mike, I was almost like I'm meeting a celebrity, and it was really cool because you can see that in some of my videos. Yeah, Mike.
Because I mean, we connected. We're good buddies now.
We're good buddies.
It hasn't even been a year that we've known each other.
It hasn't even been a year.
But why this? I mean, really?
So because of the mindset of living your best life.
Okay.
So I'm a firm believer of knowing your why. Because as we go through this chapter, which we call life, we have lots of things we go through, good and bad, and sometimes disappointing and sometimes awesome.
Yeah.
And one thing I learned from your videos that really inspired me is Mike would go around. He would say, "Man, I'm having a gratitude attack."
Yeah,
and here it is. And it was as simple as him stepping on a shell or stubbing his toe, and it's like, man, he's so grateful for where he's at.
I just punished myself.
Yeah, but it's so beautiful, and that's something that gravitated me towards Thailand. It is super affordable. People are super friendly, and again, if you don't like the big city, you're going to fall in love with Bangkok. At least I think so. There are other cities I go to. So I've toured Pattaya, which is, again, the red light district. Where I'm at in Pattaya is actually Jomtien area. It's quite a bit less of that. It's more of where the expats go. I have a condo over there, a temporary condo.
It's where the expats live more permanently.
They live. Correct. So I've rented a condo long-term to kind of see, this is a place where I want to live. I've toured Phuket. You've toured Phuket as well.
Oh, yeah, a bunch of times.
So there's lots of things to do here. So Thailand is more than maybe what you're envisioning. However, what you could be envisioning is, hey, a girl life, party life, or whatnot, and all that is here.
Yeah, it's available.
So when I viewed all the videos on YouTube, there are hundreds of channels. Some of them are going to show you the down and dirty of Thailand, and I got to tell you, the things I found most interesting were videos like "Live My Ass Off." There's several other different ones about life as an expat. So hopefully you guys are watching or getting something out of these questions. So the next part is, I brought up single guys. So interesting about Mike here, he's actually married here in Thailand. And I'm going to ask him, so did you date a Thai girl? Are you married to a Thai girl? I kind of want you to go into that a little bit for these guys.
It is important, actually, because I was a absolutely confirmed bachelor. Like, there's no way I'm getting married. And I lived in Southern California. I mean, the pastime there, if you're male and under 50, is to get divorced. Like, more than 51% of all marriages end up in divorce.
That's correct.
Right? So I'm like, okay, well, the odds are pretty much against me. I think I'd rather buy some, stock that's going to go bankrupt. But I said, forget it. And I came over here, and I actually, the first Thai girlfriend I had, I met in San Diego, because some of you guys will do this. You maybe do this. After you go to Thailand, you go back home. I wanted anything attached to Thailand that I could get close to. So I would go to Thai restaurants. I went to Thai massage places and paid like 400% more than here, right? But it was, so I met this girl at a Thai massage place in San Diego.
In San Diego.
And she was Thai.
Wow.
And she had been living there for a while. She was married to this guy, hated him, and didn't want to be with him any longer, so she ended up getting a divorce. But the point is that my first Thai girlfriend I actually met in the States. Now, she was still very Thai. I mean, she spoke English, but basically she was helping like import products from her hometown into...
She was becoming westernized, because when you say she's gone through a divorce... Not that it doesn't happen here in Thailand.
Yeah, I mean, sort of. The good news, though, is that she wasn't westernized to the point of basically being annoying.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to... If you guys don't think...
We're not bashing females,
Western
guys.
white women are annoying, then awesome. You've met a great one. Stick with it. But she was awesome. And then she got into some money, and she moved over here and back home, basically, bought a house, bought 7-8 rai of land. There's a couple, my super early videos on my channel. You can go down there, and Kombori, basically. It's in Nakhon Ratchasima, the province. It's way up in Isan. And not way up, but it's up in Isan. And so, so she was my first Thai girlfriend, and I saw the change in someone once they get money, basically a poor person once they get money. It was very unattractive to me. And there's also just a difference between Thai people and Western people as part of the way that they think. There's definitely differences between U.S. people and like other countries. I get that. But there's a big delta in like forward thinking. What do you want the future to look like? What you're planning for?
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so this is your Thai girlfriend.
Yeah, and it was one of my, I had Thai girlfriends, but never any long-term. And so she was my really only long-term relationship. I had some other short-term ones. And I don't mean like an hour.
Yeah.
But like, a short time.
You had met her back in the States after visiting Thailand, wanting that connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
To stay in Thailand, which is so interesting because when I first came to Thailand, I didn't want to come back. And you guys, when you come here, there's a good chance you're not going to want to come back. And you probably have to because of work or responsibilities.
You're not going to want to go back home.
Go back home.
Yeah.
So, again, I went back home. I came in November 2019, went back home mid-January, only to find that...
you want to get the hell back here.
Well, as I'm on the plane, I'm like looking up flights.
Yeah, no. I know,
And you guys, it is so typical to do that. Now, of course, fortunately, I did not book... and now I run a small business there where I live. So I come back, and then that is when this situation hits.
Right.
So for about 2 years, I've been on hiatus trying to come back.
Living vicariously through live streams.
Living through, live streams. Your live stream actually has really inspired me for years. And there's several others, guys. There's tons of different live streams and YouTube channels that I followed. And if you want to learn more about what I followed, definitely hit it in the comments. I have no problem promoting other channels. And now
But let me get to the whole Thai girlfriend thing, because obviously I'm not with a Thai girl now, and I'm happily married to a Filipina.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
After I saw the behavioral change in Mali, was her name, which means flower, basically, in Thai, my buddy was like, okay, well, you need a different place to go. You need a different, come over and visit me in the Philippines. So I go to the Philippines, and I go to an area called Angeles City. And if anyone knows about Angeles City, it's basically the Pattaya of Philippines, not near the water. It's like a giant cesspool.
Is that Makati?
No. Makati is basically an area of
Okay.
Manila.
Gotcha.
But this is up north. And so I go there, and I'm like, dude, this place is disgusting. And then I take a plane down to Boracay, which is arguably one of the most beautiful places in the Philippines. Again, still, no desire to either, meet a girl, have a girlfriend, let alone get married, because I just, left one that I'm like, I'm never doing this, whole long-term thing again. So I hang out in Boracay, and I have basically, girlfriends for the evening or for, weeks, whatever. And then I meet Gracie, who's my now wife, and I'm like, oh, my God. And I never thought I would say, oh, my God.
Okay, so real quick, before you go on to the next part, you met Gracie knowing that you actually want to live in Thailand.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
on.
so here's the thing, right? So I wanted to live in Thailand until I started exploring other places. Then I'm like, oh, this Philippines place? Yeah, I definitely don't want to live here, but it's kind of cool. And then I was like, well, let me check out. So basically my Thailand trips then turned into Southeast Asia trips.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Vietnam, yeah, Malaysia, right? And so and I basically ended up touring those after I met Gracie with Gracie. She would then, come with me.
So was the reason for touring them to find a home, or was it to, or did you already make your decision that, hey, Thailand's it?
Well, again, I made a decision that I was going to retire in Thailand. I had no idea it was going to occur when I was 51. Right before COVID, right? I wasn't like, well, I tell you what, all I got to do is get my shit together and make sure I'm out of here before the pandemic hits. I mean, we didn't, your business plan doesn't include that. How do you know? But it was like, I just want to travel. And I got Gracie a U.S. tourist visa so she could come there, so that selfishly I didn't have to leave her and go home and work. I brought the beach back home with me, basically.
That's
I
right.
brought my own sand to the beach.
What's awesome about this is you brought Gracie to Thailand. And,
oh, yeah.
And you guys, just real quick, I've never physically met Gracie. I've seen the pictures, seen her on social media and through Mike's videos. She looks 100% Thai. I'm not going. It shocked me. It shocked me when he said, "What? You're married to a Filipina?"
Yeah.
And by the way, Philippines, awesome place. I probably wouldn't want to live there. Awesome.
Not awesome.
I probably wouldn't want to live there compared to Thailand.
No.
But he brought a Filipina who doesn't speak a lick of Thai.
No, I speak more Thai than
So when you're here in Thailand with her,
Yeah.
She's expated over essentially.
Yeah, I mean, she travels with me, yeah.
She travels with you, and what's the spin on that? You're here in Bangkok. You're with a Asian gal that looks Thai. Just go ahead and share a little bit with us.
The short answer is whenever we go anywhere, what happens is a Thai person, regardless of their age or their level of education, they will look at me, and then they will look at her, because they're like, okay, foreigner, Thai person, I can speak better with them, much like they probably do with you and your, kitty, right? And so then they speak Thai to her, and she's like, I have no idea what you're saying. Like in perfect English, she says that, with a little bit of a Filipino accent, but she says, and so it's very interesting. And normally their response is, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were Thai people. She also has this gorgeous meter of hair. And so this straight black, and you're in
very
the red.
Thai.
You're in the red, just so you know. So I don't want to have this cut off, but it's good, because then we'll have a second video for sure. Because we definitely got a lot more to talk about.
Yeah,
I think you got a second battery.
I think I'll change out my battery right now
good.
in a minute here.
But the point is that yes, she is mistaken for Thai. But when they realize that she's not Thai, they're so incredibly welcoming to her. It's just lovely to watch.
Yeah, I think that's totally rad. So, so we talked about his current relationship. So Mike is married.
Yeah, and we got married last year.
Yeah, and what's cool about it is, so Mike is on one of our videos before this. We're walking around, what's it called, Soy 61 in Pattaya.
Yeah, right. What do you call it? Ladyboy Alley?
Ladyboy Alley.
Which I've never heard it called before, but it's totally accurate.
It's very accurate, and we didn't find one Ladyboy. Mike has tons of fun experiences with Ladyboys. Doesn't mean anything. He's just got great stories.
Lob that over the net.
Yes, be sure to tune into his channel to see some of the stories. It's actually a lot of fun, guys. And again, there's so many misconceptions about Thailand. Thing. That is one of the big ones. Is I get asked a lot about Ladyboys. I get asked a lot about, do you go over there just to meet girls? What is your purpose for coming over here? And you guys, like Mike, he talked about living your dream. Gratitude attack. Mine was live your best life.
Right.
And that was so important to me, is live where you're treated best. And if you feel like you're treated best in a different country, well, heck, pack your bags and go.
Yeah, some guys love the Philippines. And
Yeah.
I just, you know.
Yeah, and I followed one of the guys over there, actually a couple guys over there. I think it's called Black and Filipino or something like that, podcast or YouTube
channel.
Yeah, and he's actually pretty good, and he gives the same kind of stories I give. Anyways, guys, be sure to like and subscribe. Mike's channel, my channel, so you can learn more about Thailand. We're going to continue on with this.
Love it.
If that's cool with you.
We should totally. Yeah, I think so.
Because we are 40 minutes into this video.
Yeah, we got a lot more to talk about.
So you guys, just so you know, I only planned for a 15-minute video because most of you guys like my 15-minute videos.
but I've done 12-hour live streams. So
yeah, so we're gonna continue on here. So what I want you to share with us, not everything's perfect, not everything's flowers, not everything's like great and dandy. Now it's up to us to really make things positive, right? In a way.
Try to, yeah.
So what is something that you would do over again? What is not a regret? 'Cause I hate using that word.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have regrets.
What is a do-over? Had you known, here we go, had you met someone like yourself, like me meeting you, because I can ask you these questions.
Right.
What is something I should be aware of that you wish you would have known? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. I don't really think that there's anything that you should know other than the short answer is be a good guy. And I say that because no matter how open-minded you are, you come over here with the idea of there's going to be some degree of sameness to what I'm used to. People are going to interface with me the way that they do back home, right? And whether that's the United States or the UK or whatever. And you just need to realize that they simply are not going to do that. The other thing is, what I do think is if I knew a little bit more about the Thai culture and what saving face really meant to them. And the final thing I'll say is that the simplest answer for me about saving face is that imagine like the yelling match you may have with someone in the United States. Like this, you're in public and you're like physically, maybe tensing up, but your voice is like really high and potentially embarrassing, but whatever, you move on from it and that happens. So doing that here is the equivalent of going up to that same person you were yelling at in the U.S. and physically punching them in the face. There is that much of a distaste for losing face in a public eye. And so there's a lot more data on that on channels all over the internet. So I would argue, do some research on what it really means about what saving face means. And it's a very simplistic label that we white people use, that we Westerners, not just white people, that we Westerners use to describe basically them having, individual pride and a lack of debate about certain things, certainly based on age, right?
Gotcha.
Like the older guy is right. And the younger guy isn't necessarily supposed to say anything. This is changing big time, and of course, like every other country, but Thailand specifically is maturing. It's becoming more global. I won't say more Western, but definitely more global and more open-minded and more individualistic, but it's still a very tight, warm, family-related social culture.
So knowing the culture more is pretty much the answer. Is, hey, if you learn more about the culture, you wouldn't maybe step on your toes. So you're telling people, hey, learn more about the culture. In which you guys, for me, I totally 100% agree. One of the things I did actually before coming over here, just because I wanted to not fall on my face so much, and you're going to. I mean, you are going to. Mike talking about losing face, having a Thai person saying something. Here in America, we are kind of sarcastic.
Sure.
Let's just face it. And over here in Thailand, it's a little bit different. So for me, I learned a couple of words, sayings, so I could greet a Thai person.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Hello.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, we're going to do that on our next segment.
Okay.
We're going to talk about some of those words. Also on our next segment, we're going to talk about how much it costs to live here, which is very important. I know you guys want to know.
Everyone wants to know that.
So I'm going to get into the next part before we start the next segment, which we'll do on a different video. So Mike mentioned Kitty, and we talked about relationships. So if you guys have been tuning into my channel, you'll notice I have a Thai security guard with me.
Yeah, right.
So her name is Kitty. She protects me. So she's kind of like
from yourself.
Yeah, she protects me from myself.
Yeah.
She's my Thai girlfriend. So she'll be watching, and she'll be really happy happy to hear that. So I've only been actually seeing her legitimately as a girlfriend only since during this trip, but I've been communicating with her for over a year.
Yeah.
So you guys, I get asked, how did I meet her? Or how do I meet a Thai girl? You guys, there's tons of different ways. We're going to talk in detail
the
in the next
video
segment.
just on that.
So let's do a next segment on that as well. But so just so you guys know, I met Kitty via an app to actually learn Thai language a little more and to learn the culture a little more.
Okay.
It wasn't to meet her.
It wasn't a dating app.
It wasn't a. Well, it was a dating app, which we're going to get into on that next segment. But it wasn't with an intention to date her or anything like that.
Okay.
I actually met a handful of Thai people, males and females, because I wanted to learn these sayings and learn the language and learn the culture, because I wanted to come the next trip and kind of already be dialed in.
You know, to that point, if you are home and you've never been here before and you're in a city that is, as long as the city's large enough, there's going to be like a Thai restaurant somewhere. There's going to be like a Thai massage, probably a restaurant, but find a Thai person. Go in there, look around. Don't find someone that's like, oh, yeah, I was born in Thailand, then I moved to New York City when I was 4 years. No, find someone who's like Thai and just say, hey, look, can I just buy you a cup of coffee? Because I have some questions about going over to your country, and I want to make sure that I portray the best example of my country in your country. And is there anything I can bring over there to your family? That'll get them to say yes.
That will get them to talk.
Absolutely.
You know what's great is I was in San Diego not long ago in between trips, and I went to a Thai restaurant.
And which one? Oh, downtown.
Downtown.
Oh,
that's
a
right.
Great
Gaslamp
one, dude.
District. And there was only one.
Yes.
And it was kind of pricey.
Giant ceilings. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really neat. And the first thing I said is Sawadee Cup. And the girl's eyes were just,
dude.
Her eyes were huge.
This is a sex pat waiting to happen.
No, that wasn't the case. But she was probably 20 years old and so excited. She started speaking Thai to me. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I only know a couple of words, a couple of phrases. Yeah, my cow jai. And we're going to go over some of those sayings on our next segment. So you guys, we're going to sign off now on this segment.
This is great, dude.
Yeah, be sure to stay tuned for the next one. It's probably going to be the next day or two. It will come on air. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to smash that like button. Subscribe to Walking in My Shoes if you haven't already subscribed.
For sure.
And also to Live My Ass Off.
Tell your friends.
And always remember to live your best life and
live the dream, because if you're not, you're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong.
Up top.
I love it. Up top.
Boom.
Mike, we'll see you in the next segment.